Hello you, it's me. Today we're going to throw a blanket over 2021 and then forget about it forever. Whee! What a write-off year. I hope it wasn't too terrible for any of you, but welcome to my end of year, slightly delayed wrap-up video, where we're going to go through top 10 books, DNFs I couldn't get through, stuff I really didn't know how to review but I still want to tell you about, best authors I found this year, 2022 releases I'm really excited for, a book unhaul, a book club plug, information about the read-along I'm running this year, some books on my physical TBR I absolutely want to get around to in 2022, some booktube-ish resolutions, and some series I'm in the middle of that I really want to wrap up and be done with. So let's just jump straight in. How much did I read? I set a goal of 78 on Goodreads, which was one more than the previous year, but if you followed me for this year, you know that I am kind of salty that a little book and a big fat book both count one book towards your goal. So every year I try and read my height in books. This is last year's picture. So let's see how this year measured up against it. Top 10 books I read in 2021. These aren't in order, but I feel like I have to say there are two which were really sort of battling it out for top spot for me. There's no way I can decide between them. They were both completely insane. At number 10, we have Spin by Robert Charles Wilson. This story is about the world being suddenly smothered by this space-time distorting envelope, outside of which the universe is moving a hell of a lot faster than it is on Earth. So scientists have to scramble to find out who put it there and why, before essentially in the space of a few months, the sun explodes. Number 9 is Night of the Crabs by Guyan Smith. This is garbage, absolute trash, a hot mess. I loved it so much. Essentially, this is a story about a coastal village that is laid waste to by giant, intelligent, bloodthirsty, man-eating crabs. It is exactly what it says on the tin, and I highly recommend it. Number 8 is Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder. Amazing, very sad, very metaphor-heavy empowerment book about a woman with a troublesome, hard-to-care-for child, a very absent husband who doesn't really take part in the marriage or the childcare, and she finds herself slowly turning into a dog. I really don't read a lot of contemporary stuff, but I feel this was just on the edge of being fantasy. It was bonkers. Fantastic ending, hit me in a really weird place, loved it. Number 7 is The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers. This was one of our Interstellar Book Club reads. The final installment in the Wayfarers series about some aliens trapped together on a planet at sort of a refueling station when there's a satellite cascade collision in orbit which completely cuts off all travel to and from the planet. It's more character development than compelling story, but it is the emotional roller coaster that we've all come to expect from Chambers. Made me cry, loved every second. Probably overall my second favourite book in the series now. Number 6 is Kings of a Dead World by Jamie Mollart. This one is set in the UK. It's about people being put to sleep for large periods of their life as a solution to a fuel and food shortage, while being watched over by janitors who care for and sort of assess the health of the sleeping population, while trading stocks with other janitors to gain the most resources for their group of people as they can. One of the best sci-fis I've read in a while, and I think it's something that has rekindled my faith in dystopia books. Number 5 is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I don't read a lot of high fantasy epic saga-length series, and this was such a good place to jump in. I want to thank Brie and Casey from Books Before Death for holding my hand through this year, helping me take the plunge into something that I was so intimidated by. In this one, long ago, magic awakening in people will grant them the ability to use magic, the ability to live for an extended period of time, and they go and live in this place called Elantris, which is a sort of walled city where all the high-up magic users live. Now it's corrupted, and when the magic awakens inside you, you gain immortality, but also you lose the ability to heal yourself, so any injury you get lasts forever. People in which the magic awakens are dumped in Elantris, which has now become little more than a leper colony. And when the prince joins the afflicted, it's up to him and his betrothed to get to the root of the problem and find out why the magic is broken. Number 4 is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Set in the far future in an almost Warhammer 40k-ish Chronicles of Riddick setting. This follows Gideon Nav, a warrior of the Ninth House of Necromancers, one of the families that served the immortal emperor that brought everlasting life to the Society of the Universe. When the emperor gathers the houses together to recruit new generals, these powerful, necromancers called lictors. Gideon is called upon to be her house's champion and to defend the mistress of the ninth. They're transported to the house of the first, a gothic, haunted mansion in space, to complete the trials and tests laid out for them by the Emperor. Number 3 is Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World by Haruki Murakami. So half of this story follows a Calcutech, a human encryption system, hired to protect data and information by a scientist who is researching sound removal and working towards something that they say will be unnoticeable, but a huge monumental change for the world. In the other half, we follow a guy who is a newcomer to a city called the End of the World, through which unicorns stampede every day. He's hired to sit in a library filled with skulls to trace lines of light on their surfaces and find out what the purpose of the city is and how he got there in the first place. I got recommended this by Steff at Coffee Over Apples, and I had such a good time with it. This book was like walking through somebody else's dream. The next two are both in my top spot for best book of the year. The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This was such a fresh and different fantasy novel. I've never read anything like it before. It's both funnier and more gross and fucked up than anything else I've read. It takes all these laughable, low-level fantasy tropes and makes them real threats again. It's about a member of a thieves guild tasked with escorting a warrior to a northern city to find a lost princess, a city that is beset by giants, to essentially clear his debt to the guild. This probably jumped up into at least my all-time 20 favourite books. Honeycomb by Joanne M. Harris. Is this a novel? Yes. Is this a short story collection? Yes. This is a single story told over the course of 100 interconnected short stories, all woven together to tell the tale of this trickster-like fey prince called the Lacewing King. This is an experience. This is one of the most beautifully written books I've ever read. I've read some other stuff by Joanne M. Harris, but this does not compare at all. The illustrations by Charles Vess add to it and make it something really special. Harris has managed to create this completely from-scratch mythology. Most fantasy, I feel, is built on foundations laid down by other people, but Joanne Harris's feels so completely new, while at the same time, due to the structure and the writing style, managing to feel ancient and archaic. Amazing. Really amazing. Highly recommend you check it out. DNFs. Books that I couldn't get through, have no intention of really trying again. I usually finish books even if I dislike them, which is a problem because you only live one time. So for me to abandon something, it has to really, really not tickle me. Life's too short to read things that suck. This year, luckily, there was only one that I abandoned, which was Paris by Starlight by Robert Dinsdale. As far as I could tell, this was about a family or a group of people, an ethnic group that sort of live in the cracks of society, where magic once existed but does no longer, so they're left as nomads in the modern world. Not part of society, but not with a home of their own, as it's just disappeared over the years. It has big Neverwhere vibes, and on the surface, honestly, this sounds great. For some reason, though, the writing style of the book just didn't gel with me. I found the main character super annoying to read. Really wasn't a fan of this, and I know that's such a shame because I know a lot of people who really like Dinsdale. So I DNF'd this at about 150 pages. Something I'm not sure how to review, otherwise I would have done a full video on it. I read this one in 2021 called Neon Horror, that I actually won a copy of as part of a competition on Twitter. It's a celebration of horror by queer authors. The stories in it were very short, often experimental in format, interspersed by super garish artwork. I think the art for me maybe made it feel less like a coherent collection. The last half of the book, pretty much, was just character profiles of the authors, with photos of the authors. So overall, for me, this kind of felt like an exhibition of authors rather than an exhibition of those authors' work. Maybe this would be a good book for somebody who is very new to the self-published horror scene and they're looking for authors to follow to get invested in the works of. I think I would have enjoyed this more if it were just stories. If they'd taken out the illustrations or made the illustrations less distracting, cut out the author profile bit, this probably could have been a really cool little zine that I would have paid for. Best authors I've found this year. Brandon Sanderson. Really glad I got an introduction to Sanderson's work this year, and then proceeded to cram everything he's ever written ever into my eye holes. Since his books are so enormous, I've always been really apprehensive about starting, but they're multiple series set in the same universe, The world building is just so airtight. This is some of the best world building, universe building I've ever seen. This guy has multiple totally original magic systems that you will have seen nowhere else. And I give so many points for reviewing a book for originality. But almost all of these completely blew me away. And I think there was one 3-star book of Sanderson's I read this year. The rest were 4s and 5s. Now this is a series I am completely invested in, the Cosmere. And I will be keeping up with it going forward. Jamie Mullart. I mentioned Kings of a Dead World before, but I'm really going to be looking forward to seeing anything else that Mullart comes out with. The writing quality of his book, I did mention in my review of it that I wouldn't be surprised to see this in a sci-fi masterwork collection. That's how good it was. And I stand by that. I haven't read anything in a while that managed to capture, as he captured, sort of slow, creeping despair. Really worth checking out. Christopher Buehlman. I cannot wait for the second Black Tongue Thief book. Funny is so hard to write, especially if you're writing funny that doesn't rely on sarcasm. I think that's kind of cheap. Buehlman has perfected the art. Black Tongue Thief was the first book I read in years that had me laughing out loud. This, coupled with really poetic descriptions, really interesting inner monologue, one of the best narrators I've read for a long time. All these things exist in the book without diminishing the others. It was so impressive to read. 2022 releases I'm super excited about. Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, by the author of Salt Slow, which is one of my favourite short story collections ever. I've been excited for their debut novel since it was announced. Got a cover reveal for this a little while ago and it's really lovely. This one is about a relationship decaying in the aftermath of a deep sea exploration accident. Something that went horribly wrong. And I get the feeling there's going to be some really unsettling horror vibes. I think this is going to be a 5-star prediction for this year. The Lost Metal, Brandon Sanderson. The final book in the Cosmere Wax and Wane series. Magical Cowboys. Hopefully this is going to answer loads of questions we have about Mistborn Era 2. Hopefully it's going to answer questions that have been recently thrown to the surface in the Stormlight archives. Fingers crossed, gonna be juicy, and I really wouldn't mind like a fat info dump in this book. Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Next installment in the Locked Tomb series. The last book was insane. It had the most bonkers ending. I have no idea where the story is going to go from here, what the author could possibly pull out of that bag. Is this a sequel? Is this a prequel? What's going on? Stay tuned to find out. A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. Next one in the Monk and Robot series. Set in a world where robots walked away from humans hundreds of years ago and are slowly returning to check up on them to find out what humans want. The first one was gorgeous. It asked some really important questions. I'm really excited to see whether this follows the same 2 characters as were introduced in book 1, or if it's going to kind of follow the format of the Wayfarers series and be only tenuously connected. Gwendy's Final Task by Richard Chismar, brackets Stephen King, close brackets. I've not read the others in the Gwendy series yet. We're going to be reading all the Gwendy books as part of our Dark Tower read-along this year. But the cover of this one looks particularly exciting. Really makes me think it's going to be part of the official Dark Tower canon. So, yeah, what the heck is going on, please? Book UNHAUL. I'm still not good at this, and should probably do this more. I'm not chucking many, but I'm chucking a few. Midnight in Paris by Robert Dinsdale. We talked about that one already. Feet of Clay by Terry Pratchett. Just because I found a nicer copy. I don't like these like boring grown-up covers on Terry Pratchett books. I want the old like classic style. Star Wars Aftermath Book 2 and 3 by Chuck Wendig. I read the first one. It was okay. Honestly don't see myself coming back to the series. The Valkyries by Paulo Coelho. Because I always need more shelf space. I honestly don't know why I've kept this on my shelf for so long. Because it is the worst book I have ever read, and that is not an exaggeration. The Dream Merchant by Isabel Hoving. For the same reason, I need space. Didn't like this book at all. Goodbye. The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. Same reason, didn't enjoy it, taking up space. I'm also getting rid of my Wheel of Time books. I bought the first 7. I've read the first 2 of them multiple times and have never been motivated to continue with the series. I just think it's really boring. It doesn't hit me, doesn't tickle me at all. A lot of people tell me it gets really good at like book 5 or 6, but I don't have the time to hold out that long. I'll just watch the show. Book club plugs. Since October 2020, with Mel from Strawberry Lemon Books, Jessa from Gavin with Jessa, and Steff from Coffee Over Apples. We've been reading a science fiction book every month, discussing them in live shows. It's such great fun. Everybody that is in the comments or one of the co-hosts has such awesome hot takes and interesting opinions on these things. We've got the books all set up for discussion on a Discord server. We've also got the first 3 books for the first quarter of 2022 laid out, and they all sound amazing. The link to join the server will be down below. We'd love to have you on it. Come and talk about sci-fi books. I'm also running a Stephen King Dark Tower read-along, which has its own Discord server. So if you're a long-time King fan, or maybe you've always been intimidated by King because of the number of books he's written, maybe try reading about it and talking about it in a group with us. This one I'm co-hosting with Steff, Maza Booktuber, and Casey, who is one half of Books Before Death. Link to this one will be down below as well, so get on board. If anybody's taken part in any insane read-alongs this year, I'd love to hear about them. Leave a comment down below. Stuff I am dead set on clearing from my physical TBR this year. I'm making a promise to myself. There's been a lot that's been sitting on my physical TBR for a long time, and now I think it's time to smash them out. Now that I don't have the commitment of reading 12 plus ginormous Cosmere books this year, I have a little more spare time. There are a few big ones, a couple of series that I want to tie up, because I keep picking up new series. Why am I like this? The Night's Dawn trilogy by Peter Hamilton. 3 very beefy books, but I hear good things. Jerusalem by Alan Moore. I've heard this compared to Ulysses, so it's probably going to take me like a month to read. The Baroque Cycle by Neil Stephenson. I got given this by my aunt, and I loved Snow Crash, Neil Stephenson's cyberpunk masterpiece. I thought this was pure historical fiction when I got given them, but it did win the Arthur C. Clarke Award and it got nominated for a Locus, so I feel like there must be some kind of sci-fi fantasy element in there. I really want to finish Naomi Novik's Temeraire series because I've been stuck on book 5 for like 2 years, and it honestly doesn't deserve this level of neglect because it's such a good series. Same situation with Terry Pratchett's Long Earth series. I'm 2 books away from being done with that pentology. I've dragged that out for way too long, need to get off my ass and finish it. Booktube resolutions. Got a couple this year that I'm going to try and stick to, besides obviously regular book review uploads, read lots of books, keep up with read-alongs. Number 1 is keep up with other booktubers' content. I really fell off the wagon with that this year. Just a lot of watching stuff, a lot of commenting on stuff, searching other people's videos. Just be a little more involved than just putting out content, I think. Number 2, oh my god, read more horror. I always say that horror is one of my favourite genres, and then somebody's like, what was the last horror you read? And I have to face the fact that it was like 4 years ago. So yeah, read more horror this year, more scary books. 3, on the note of reading horror, I'm only a few books away from having finished reading everything James Herbert has ever written, the British horror icon. I think it'd be really fun at the end of the year to sort of do a tier ranking video of all of the James Herbert books that I've read, get some video variety out on my channel. And number 4 is to start and maintain an Instagram, and that's probably going to be the hardest one for me, because I am not tech literate. So that's it. 2021 swept under the rug and we can forget about it now. I hope everyone has an amazing 2022 in which they achieve all the things they want to achieve. Everybody's channels that I've mentioned in this video will be linked below. Please make sure you check them out. They are all amazing content creators. Make beautiful things. Be kind to each other. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Big love, nerds. I'll see you soon for another review video. Bye.